What's up, everybody? Nick Castiglia here from Legacy Martial Arts Consulting on our martial arts business podcast. We are here with the amazing Megan Hodgen from Diamond MMA and Fitness. How are you doing, Megan?
I'm awesome. Thank you for having me on today.
Great. So, Megan, we were just talking a little bit just prior, and I think your story is very inspirational. I think to anybody for a multitude of reasons, but especially young female entrepreneurs, because you started your gym at 22 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, so 22 for me, I was gone. I was like a gong show at 22, so that's amazing. Why don't you take us through how did Diamond start? How did it come to be? And how exactly did it start?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So I always like to reflect on it because, I was just saying, it'll be 10 years next year in 2025 since we had opened Diamond Fitness MMA. We started out really small. So for those of you who don't know me, but I went to school at the University of Waterloo and took my kinesiology degree. And I came back to Napanee, which was my hometown, and just trying to figure out life and what direction that I wanted to go, whether I was going to go back to school or do something within Napanee. So we ended up deciding that I didn't want to go back to school, and there wasn't a lot of jobs within kinesiology at the time. I was working full-time hours elsewhere within the healthcare system and then at another gym. And at that point, I decided, okay, let's bring this together in Napanee. There was no martial arts club in Napanee besides the karate school. So I felt like this was a great need in the community, a place where people can come together as a family and work out, but incorporate the martial arts piece into it. So that was kind of the starting piece of Diamond. And at that time, we were in a small, old, rundown factory that had turned into a wedding venue. So that's where we started. We were on the top level of the building. So it was like a haymow. There was no air conditioning, so it was hot. And we had our equipment up there, just running small classes, and that's where it started.
So you started on top of this building, on top of a venue, super, super hot, and what were you offering at the beginning? Were you just offering boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu? What were you offering in the beginning?
Yeah, at the beginning we were doing more, we focused on boxing at the beginning, and I was teaching the cardio boxing and kickboxing classes, almost like a Zumba class, incorporating punching the air and kicking the air. I did have two other coaches on, which were boxing and wrestling, but we weren't really into the wrestling at that time. We focused more on the boxing and the kickboxing piece of it. From that point, we were there for almost a year, and then we realized we had to get out. So we were in limbo for about 6 months trying to find a spot in Napanee. And then that's where we had found our second location where we had moved to. It was a cool setup there. It was at, if those of you who know Napanee, it was at what's called the Smiling Wilderness Plaza. So we had rented out 3 units. And it was awesome because we had the weight room piece, which is the part that I'm passionate about as well, the fitness. We had a 24-hour fitness facility where people could come in and work out on their own. And then the second side was where we got into the martial arts with the boxing, and we had developed the kids programs from there. So we went from about a 800 square feet facility to I would say 1,200 square foot facility with 2 levels. So that worked out for majority amount of time. We were there for about 2 years. And then we got approached by a gym was closing in town. So then we had moved to our final location where we are now, which is at the Strathcona Paper Center in Napanee. So it's at the community center, and that's about 4,000 square feet. So we basically tripled in size overnight, essentially. It took us about a month and a half to get the whole move settled, and that's where we currently are now. At that time, when we were at the Smiling Wilderness at our old location, we had about 50 members, so it was still fairly small at that time. And I was working 2 jobs to help fund the gym because the gym wasn't making a profit as of then. So I was still working full-time hours at another place and running the business with, of course, my staff along, my instructors that were helping me teach too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we started in the humble beginnings of like the top floor, rough space. Then we go to a better space. Then takes you to the community. It's the Strathcona Paper Center. That's a fancy name for like the community center that has a hockey rink, high traffic area, right?
Yeah, so it's got 2 ice pads and 2 soccer fields on the main strip right off the 401.
Yeah. And I think this is important to talk about. I mean, you have talked about it over the years a lot too, where it's, and because like, I think people don't think about this a lot. Like that location is an extremely high traffic area. Wouldn't you agree?
I would, yeah, for sure. It's one of the most high traffic areas in Napanee, especially going right off the 401, like I said, and then having all the people coming in for hockey, figure skating, team events. And it's a community center, so it has a banquet hall as well. So there's a lot of traffic coming into the gym, but just getting the exposure from the public too.
And do you think that has like really had a positive effect, for your business to be able to capitalize on all those people coming in, coming out, hockey, like filling up your camps and filling up some of your programs as well?
Oh yes, yeah, 100%. It for sure has. It went from kind of like we had said, the barn-like facility that I had to stepping into the medium-sized facility, which wasn't really well lit. And then now we're at this community center where it's well lit, clean, fresh, bright windows to make the space look professional, and it kind of just takes it to the next level for our members and giving it that effect. It's got showers and change rooms, which is a real asset for people who are wanting to use the showers before or after work. And then also too, we get the traffic from the hockey. So I train a lot of the hockey teams too, and I have a lot of trainers that will do off-ice management for athletes, whether it's hockey, figure skating, baseball, because we're very high. Our community is very high into hockey and baseball. So that cross training is super important to not just people that are wanting to learn martial arts. Martial arts is a good cross training tool for those sports and those athletes to have in Napanee.
Yeah, I think something that you do well that not a lot of other martial arts schools do well, and some people try and capitalize on, maybe you can touch on this a bit, is that personal fitness training, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would say that that's like a, pretty big source of income for your business, as well as your fitness facility and the classes you run in your fitness area and the private training that's offered as well. What do you think it is that you're doing different that makes you successful in a martial arts school with your fitness training? What do you think the difference is between you and everybody else, and why you're able to make that so successful for you and Diamond?
I think it has to do a lot with the credibility, right? And the credibility of the coaches and the trainers that I have. So they have that extra not just the martial arts training, but the personal training and the personal fitness certificates. So myself, like I said at the beginning, I have my kinesiology degree. So that just levels it up. I can advertise my kinesiology services. I would highly recommend, if you don't have an athletic therapist or a kinesiologist on board for your martial arts business, I think hiring part-time is very smart for all avenues, because they can bill for insurance companies. They can provide training for veterans for free. That's just a whole different income and revenue stream for a martial arts school, to have somebody that's credible that you can rely on as a staff. And then also for your athletes, if you have professional or amateur fighters, that just takes them from teaching them not just the martial arts, but the strength and conditioning piece of it that is super important for any athlete of any sport. So having that trainer that has the qualifications is definitely important. And having this space, I know that some martial arts schools are crammed for space and they don't have the access to put the equipment that they need. So I'm fortunate that I have 3 separate rooms in my facility. So I've got the strength and conditioning room with the cardio machines, the weights, the free weights, the machines, and the turf strips. And then I have a second room where we do most of our classes, which is where the boxing ring is and the mats for jiu-jitsu and the heavy bag. And then I have a flex space room that I have the roll-up mats that we use for summer camps, and then we use for private classes, and then the smaller classes we can roll up the mats and do jiu-jitsu. So I have a great space that I can be running 3 to 4 programs at once to allow people to take advantage of it and then tailor it to them and what they want.
Yeah. So in other words, you're maximizing all the space you have, and you're maximizing the times, that you have it. A question, I have many questions, but another question I have is, like, do you see a lot of overlap from getting, like, when the kids are training, getting the parents into the fitness area or some type of fitness class during the kids class? Do you see a lot of success with that? What's your experience with that? And do you do something like that?
Yes. And that's a great question. That was something that from the beginning and from when I opened Diamond Fitness, that's what I wanted to have. I wanted to create this environment where kids can come and train, but also the parents. And I'm not a parent, but a lot of parents, the reasons they can't exercise is that they don't have childcare. Well, why don't we run 2 classes at the same time so that the parents can have their space and their time doing their fitness class, and then the kids can do their martial arts class. We have a lot of our programs run at the same time. And so I've got an adult program in the weight room with the kids program in the main MMA room, or we've got 2 MMA classes running at the same time, adults and kids. And it's worked out fantastic so far, and the parents love it. And it's just a welcoming environment when a parent comes new with their child and they see other kids and other parents there working out and having a great time, and the effect that it has on everyone is tremendous.
That's awesome. Okay, so you took us you open up your new location. What are some of the challenges you face in the early days? You're headed, you just moved into your new location. You got a couple of training areas there. You got your fitness area, you got your striking area, then you have a flex room, for a couple of different programs that you could run in there, whatever you decide. What were some of the challenges that you had? Like, give me like your top 2 or 3 challenges that you had to face, like maybe throughout your whole, time of being a gym owner. Like, what did you find were like, say what your top 3 challenges that you had to go through, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So the first one was being a startup company. It was financial was a huge one. So like I had said before, I was working a full-time job, 30 hours a week, plus running the gym. I was doing 60, 70, 80 hours a week all the time, getting cash because I didn't want to get a loan. I didn't want to have a loan because I didn't know if this gym was going to be successful. You always have those self-doubts in your head. It's like, okay, I'm going to start this, but I don't want to be in $50,000 worth of debt and come out with nothing. So I just had worked my way through, and it was trying to decide which equipment do I buy, what's important now without going into debt, and slowly building that up. That was a challenge, but also a learning curve in itself. That's how I chose to operate and run my business. I would work instead of taking out a loan. But then also, when we had talked about a lot before, Nick, is getting the grants. So how I overcame that was going into and getting grants, whether that be for startup grants, whether that be for young entrepreneurs. I really looked at those different avenues and those options, which definitely helped a lot. And we had talked about over the years the access to grants that I've been able to have and to help fund just surviving and getting things going within the gym. That's one of the challenges I had. And then of course, everyone's challenge as a gym the last couple of years with COVID. So we had moved into our new location, and we were a full year, almost to the date. And we went from 50 members being at the old location to building it up to over 200 members. So I had over 200 members. Things were great. I was pulling a paycheck at that time, finally. And this would be this would have been in 2019 that we moved in. So this would be year 4 within the business. Finally making a paycheck for myself, paying myself, things are looking good. I'm like, yes, finally made it, 200 members, things are great. And then COVID happened. So that was obviously for all gyms and fitness industry across the world and Canada, especially, we got slammed. And that was pretty intense for sure for everyone, and not knowing how to navigate it. But definitely having you, Nick, as a coach to help navigate that has and was a saving point for me. And I also appreciate my members who had stuck on with me and believed in me and knew we would get through it. And we had converted and switched to online training for pieces of it, and we would open when we could, and then we had to get shut down. So it was that whole regrowth of, we're open, okay, let's go, and then we got shut down again, and then okay, we're open, and then shut down. And so it just kind of got into this circle of, like, when is this going to end, and are people going to come back to the gym? Because, like, who knows, right? We had 200 members drop down to 50 again during COVID, and then having to now build and regrow at this point. That was looking back, it was pretty tough, but just kind of positive and be a community leader with the struggles that people were having was important. I think to me, that also kept me going.
I had the unfair, advantage, especially like in this interview, because like I know you quite well and been working with you for a long time. But I think it was kind of like bittersweet for you. And then I think it's bitter for all of us, but I think there was like a sweet part for you, because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you decide at that time, that's when you went all in the gym? Like, there is no other job after that. Like, because of when COVID happened. Am I recalling this correctly? Like, you went all in, like COVID happened. There's some crazy, like, hey, you do this, basically threatening us to, like, receive vaccinations. And you're just like, you know what? I think it's time for me to, like, go all in the gym. I'm not trying to make this political podcast, but I think that this point is really important to highlight. And I'm going to touch a bit more about that in a second. But do I remember correctly? Was that when you did that?
Yeah, so I was still working at one of my jobs, and I just, again, I was still working 40, 50 hours a week. And at that point, I'm just like, you know what? I just need to focus 100% on Diamond. I need to focus on getting it to where I want it to be. I also don't really want to work for anyone else. I don't want to have a boss, and I want to be able to do my business and how I want to run it. And from that time, I like you said, I went all in, and I said I'm gonna do this, and here we go, and jump right in.
Yeah. So like, I think this is like a really important part, and it's a really important lesson for people listening. You went all in at possibly the hardest time in history. Like, that's when you went all in. You know, it's like the cards are stacked against us. The government is shutting our business down because we're in the fitness industry. We're teaching on screens, which, as you know, is not the same to keep people engaged and wanting to do things. And you're like, I'm all in. Like that, you know, that for me says, you know, many things. Like, one, just like the self-belief, like doubling down on yourself. Like, kudos to you, because I don't think a lot of people will have done that. I think that's a super valuable lesson for people to hear, because like, how many people, now there's no COVID, right? So say somebody's listening to this podcast, they're interested in martial arts business. They're not going all in, and there's no barriers in front of them. Maybe this is a story they need to hear to go like all in on themselves, because like you went all in when it was like everything was stacked against us. And guess what? Like, you're out there now living your best life, successful gym owner. Like, the gym is bumping. Like, we were just talking the other day, you're going to have to put in wait lists for some of your programs. Like, I just think that's such a valuable point that like people need to hear. And even also, like, I think a lot of young females need to hear it too, you know, so that they believe in themselves. They can do this. They got to get up and go, you know, like you are an inspiration in that way. Did you ever reflect and think about that?
Well, not really. You say it like that, it's like, oh, am I crazy? Was I crazy to do that? But no, I wouldn't change it for it. It's just, I really believe, and I live my life like this, that things happen for a reason, and for the good and for the bad. And I think that was the direction that my life was headed and needed to go. That made me decide to go all in and push through. And it's interesting that you talked about the female aspect of it, which leads into my third challenge as being a business owner in the martial arts industry. So again, I opened up Diamond without having any martial arts background, which people are like, well, how can you be successful if you don't have a martial arts background? But with my fitness background and the coaches that I was able to hire on, that's what allowed me to have the martial arts gym. But at 22, when I started the gym, I was at 22, I looked like I was 15 years old. People are like, what, you own a martial arts gym? Like, what do you know about martial arts, and what do you know about fitness? And it's almost like I had to prove myself everywhere that I went. Like, oh, you're female, you know nothing about martial arts. I learned over time martial arts, very much so, and I was very involved in my athletes and in my fighters. And one situation that I will absolutely never forget is one of my fighters was fighting in Atlanta, Georgia. So we went down, and I was, myself and my head coach, we were the cornermen for them at the event. And when I went to register, I gave them my card, and he's like, no, like, who's your corner man? And I said, that's me. And he looked at me and he's like, you're not the coach, you're not the corner man. And I'm like, yes, I am, and I'm the owner of the gym. And if you have a problem with that, we're going to turn around and head back home, because I wasn't taking just how rude he came across and how sexist he was. Like, if you have a problem, we're going to take my fighter and we're going back home, because I'm not going to have that, and I'm not going to put up with that from you. And so I've had many situations like that within this industry, and being around some males who had said to me face to face, you're never going to make it, you're never going to do it, you're never going to achieve, you're never going to have a successful martial arts business, you just can't. Those words were coming at me all the time. And now here I am, post-COVID, almost back up to 200 members, running a successful program. We've got jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, fitness, kids programs, day camp, fitness transformation programs. It's kind of
massive summer camp program.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't have anything to prove to anyone, but there you go, to all the people who doubted me in the past. And I'm only proving to myself. And I think that that's what people also need to realize, is building that confidence within you. It doesn't matter what other people have to say, especially when it's negative feedback and negative comments. But you can take it, but take it for a grain of salt, because they're not in your shoes and they're not living your life. You're living your own life, and that's the path that you have to walk.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, I applaud you, because I agree. Like, the martial arts industry, as much as the world has changed and is headed in a more equal direction for all, I believe, especially for women and women in the martial arts as well. There's a ton of female representation now in professional combat sports, and they rival the guys, in a lot of ways as well. And there is still that egotistical machismo like attitude, like it's still there, and you still got to deal with it. Like, what would you say, like what would you say to like a young female who's like facing these same struggles in the martial arts industry, in any facet, as a student, as an instructor, as an entrepreneur? What would you say to them?
I believe that people and women especially need to stand up for themselves and stand up for what is right. And most times that they'll just be quiet and not have a voice, because they're scared that they're going to be mistaken as overconfident, overjealous, or a bitch. So, like, which is huge for women. If a man says something, well, it's okay. But if a woman says something, well, that's what they're considered, which is not fair for women. But I do believe that we have a voice, and we need to stick up for what is right, and stand your ground, whether that's with being a student, whether that's opening your own business, as being a trainer. I think that those things it's so important to have the confidence and believe in yourself, and don't put up with it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so we hear the story of Diamond overcome COVID. I remember that. It's great. It's crazy. I think in a lot of ways, I'm sure you agree, people are still recovering from that, because everybody took such a hit during those 2 years. Now your gym's back to being bumping. If you're talking to other gym owners, other potential gym owners, people who are thinking about opening their own gym, people who have their own gym, but they're like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. and having a tough time, what are like your 3 or 4 quick tips or pieces of advice or things you wish you knew when you started? What would those 3 or 4 things be?
The first one I would say, and Nick, you and I have talked about this a lot, and you've helped me a lot, is getting your systems in place. And I think that is huge as a business, whether it be your member CRM, whether it be your instructors training, whether it be keeping track of membership base, whether it be profit loss, whether it be budget. I think that the budget is huge, and it really tells the tale of your business and where there's extra money to be spent or where there's not money to be spent. And I think I've been very conservative in my spending and in my budget throughout the entire time as a gym owner. There's a time and a place to buy things, but then there's also a time and a place to save money. And especially during COVID, when we didn't have any income or very little income anyways, that was a really important to do. So again, knowing your system, profit loss, and having everything in place so that it's easier for you to manage. That would be number one. Number two would be to still try and find balance. And I've developed that over time. But at the beginning, I really didn't have really much of a social life. My friends and family definitely went on the back burner. It does take they say it takes 5 to 10 years to run a successful business. And I really believe it's true. So don't give up if you're in year 2 or 3, because if you keep plugging away, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it does get easier. And now where I'm at now, I've been able to step back a little bit and have a social life and have a mental health break and do the things that I enjoy, go on vacation. During COVID, mental health is so important for me because we were in such a rough time. So taking up kayaking, my partner and I, we would kayak all through Ontario, go hiking, go camping, just getting outside. Good to take a step back from the business. And when you're not in the business, you can take a step back and see, okay, where can I improve? What needs to be done to take the gym to the next level? Because when you're in it day to day, sometimes it's hard to take a step back and see what is needed and what the gym needs. So taking a step back, taking a breather, living your life, enjoying your family, enjoying your friends, enjoying your partner is another thing I would say is important.
Okay, so we got systems, we got balance. One thing I'd like to tie in on the balance is like, we address you in Legacy as 2 things, the Queen of Grants, okay, which is like, you're definitely the person who has like mastered, finding different grants to support your business. And also, one thing I speak very highly about, I think you got it down better than anybody, to be honest, of all my clients, is you're very sensitive to know when you need more time for yourself or for your family or for significant others in your life. And you're very like systematic in finding that time, and I think I'm sure you agree. It like helps recharge you for the business. And I think something we forget is like business owners, like we didn't start a business to own a job. We started a business to own a business, not to own a job. And us doing those things is our why. That's the why. And I think we need to enjoy the why. What do you think about that?
Yeah, as much as and obviously if you're in the martial arts and fitness industry, you're passionate about it. And I for sure am too, but also you don't want to run the rat race. That's what I call it, the rat race. You don't want to run the rat race and just taking a step back and and giving yourself that time. And for me, every week it's Sunday. So I do no work or minimal work on Sundays. That's our rest time, but also taking time off for vacations and whatnot, and not being at the job 24/7.
So systems, balance, any other advice, any other lessons that you wish you knew before, or any other advice you would give to, people maybe struggling, with the martial arts school?
Yeah. So like I had said, it's really the 5 to 10 years for your business to be successful. Again, COVID kind of made that extend even longer for me. It probably would have been more the 5-year mark if COVID wasn't there. So now we're looking at, I'm finally at almost a 10-year mark, and now things are going as they should. But also listening to your gut and really being in tune with that, because your gut and your instincts and your subconsciousness really knows best. And if you know or feel that something's not right, then it's probably not right. So there's been times where I've listened to my gut instincts, and there's times that I haven't listened to my gut instincts. So it's just knowing that it's there, and that little voice in your head is there for a reason, to really, really think and listen to that.
So yeah, listening to your gut. Anything else you want to share and advice you give to others?
I would say also finding your market and your niche. So what does your ideal business in fitness and martial arts look like? So are you wanting a warm family environment? Are you wanting more of a competitive fighter gym? What's your goal? What does that look like for you? And for me, it was that family vibe. My sister, who also helps me run the gym as the manager, she really brings in that family vibe too. So we are the sister duo who runs the gym, and that really has created that family environment. And having female staff along with male staff, we're almost about a 50-50 split between male to female staff. And I really think that that's important for business owners to hear, and making people feel comfortable, and having offering those different classes with the male or female instructors, because some people just resonate more with males and some people just resonate more with females. So you'll have this split. And I try to accommodate everyone, and martial arts for everyone is what you and I like to say. And just how can we get more people into the fitness industry, into the health industry, into the martial arts? Because at the end of the day, people are bettering themselves who are stepping foot in your gym. So why not try and make it a really welcoming and warm environment for everyone to be able to be a part of? I think that's really, really important to do. And we have, when someone calls in or emails in for a lead, I want to get on the phone and call them, because we have so much to offer, and we want to put that person into the specific class that would help with their needs. So, and what would make them feel comfortable in our gym. So really making it a custom experience for them, and being friendly and open and welcoming. I hear that all the time in positive feedback from members. It's like, wow, you guys have such a amazing, friendly gym. Like, we love all the staff. Like, I'm very blessed to have a team that is just so awesome and so professional and so positive, and all working for the better good of the community and bringing martial arts and fitness to everyone.
Yeah, I really love you touched on the niche, because I think, and this is one of the reasons, I started the podcast. One, because there's not a lot out there that's interviewing successful martial arts school owners. Number one. Number two, there's so many different ways to be quote unquote successful, and I love that you said you found your niche. It's like find what like makes you you. Find what makes your gym that you love, that your passion's in, and let's go with that. Let's make a business out of that instead of like, oh, okay, like every martial arts school is like, full of kids programs. Yeah, some martial arts schools are full of kids programs, but like me growing up, like the original gym that I was a part of, like way back in the day, Ottawa Academy of Martial Arts, when it first started, it was like heavy adult programs. It wasn't, we didn't have a ton of kids. We were very, very heavy adult oriented. And I think like the thing that's important to know is that like you can be successful in whatever type of niche that you want to be with your gym, but it's got to resonate with you. I find too many people, they lose themselves in choosing something, oh, because everybody else does it, or I'm going to make lots of money if I do this. Like if your heart's not in the right place behind it, it's not going to, like it's just not going to work out. It never does. You know what I mean?
No, because you're not putting the right energy into it, right? You're going to be,
that's right.
Your heart's not there, and people sense that. And when they sense that, then there's just you're basically setting yourself up to fail if your heart's not in it, and that's not the direction that you want to go. And things do evolve organically, which is what I love about Diamond. Like I see a need in the community, or I see a need in the gym, and then I make it happen. And I'm very aware about the needs in the community and where we are, and the needs at the club to help just keep bettering it. And how can we do better? How can we do better? Also, it's that personalized experience that I had briefly stated. A lot of people compliment on the personalized approach that we have, and that really, truly, and again, it just elevates it. It makes them feel wanted. It makes them feel like a sense of community. This is for the members that are coming in. They don't want to be just a number. They don't want to just be a number and a tick in the box. Like they want to feel welcome, especially from COVID when everyone was locked in their houses. People want to live, people want to socialize, and this is their chance. And caring and listening to people is what really takes it to the next level.
I think, I'm thinking of two words that come to mind: connection. People want to feel a connection, and people want community. Those are the two words that are like coming to mind when you're explaining those things. And I agree with 100%. Two more questions. Biggest accomplishment. What is, and I know sometimes it's hard to pick one. So if you say more than one, that's fine. What do you feel for yourself is your biggest accomplishment, or some of your biggest / favorite, because that's usually what it breaks down to, some of your favorite accomplishments?
Yeah, that's a good one. So being resilient, I think, is just my personal accomplishment from all the hardships that I had gone through from the beginning. It hasn't been an easy road for the last 9 years. And just where my thoughts were of starting the business, 22-year-old me didn't know where the gym was going to go, didn't really have any goals, just starting a gym, a martial arts and fitness center, to see what happens. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? To now having 200 students almost, to a successful summer camp, to changing lives. And that's a huge win for me, is just hearing the stories and the impact that we have. And we just celebrated International Women's Day last week, and I think it's ironic now that I'm on the call. I think it's great. But the impact that women have, and also men too, on everyone. And as a business owner and as a coach, you're a leader in the community. You're a leader in your club. I'm a leader out in Napanee. I'm not just known as Diamond Fitness. I've created a name for myself within this town, and people look up to me. People ask me business advice. The impact that we're making physically and mentally on people is sometimes you have to take a step back because you forget about that. Last week, almost every week, I have parents calling me. It's like, I can't believe the confidence that my child has now that you've had. Last night, I had a 16-year-old boy who's been coming he's like, I've already lost 15 pounds, and that's just through martial arts and him doing the classes, and it's him talking, and it's people loving. It's just the life-changing things that we're doing that we sometimes forget. And it's not just about martial arts. It's not just about rolling in BJJ. It's about the bigger and grand impact that we have for that person, and to make them a better person to live their life and go into their families and their communities. So that's really, sometimes we forget about that. And I'm sure you do too, and you need to take a step back, and like, all the lives that you're changing is incredible, and that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah, oh man, that kind of ties into my last question. Okay, so I'll add one more question. So second last question, I think you kind of touched on it, but was my next question was going to be, what do you find the most fulfillment from through doing what you're doing? But I'm pretty sure you just kind of answered that, where it's like the impact that we're having on people's lives, kids, parents, young adults, like changing people's lives. And I think it's something that's really important for everybody to know too, especially gym owners watching this, is like, some people are only meant they come to you for a reason or a season. They're not always going to be there forever. And sometimes you're just there to fulfill the need, to help them through with whatever struggle they're going through at that time, or to give them a certain tool for them to believe in themselves, while they're with you, whatever it is. Would you agree with that, Megan?
Yeah, for sure. And like, I love how you say the seasons, because sometimes people need you for a certain time in their life, and whether they veer off and then come back to you, which is always great. But I think it's important to realize that even if they're there for a short amount of time, the difference that you're making is huge. And yeah, that's really fulfilling for me. I wanted to touch on goals, but I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add.
My last question for you was, what's the future now? What's the future for Diamond now going forward?
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on goals because I think that martial arts owners, and really, again, this goes to any business owner, is to set your goals out. And I honestly, I'm trying to think. I don't know if I really had a lot of goals at the beginning of Diamond, and it was kind of until I started working with you, Nick, that it was like really honing in on your goals. As an athlete growing up and going into the fitness shows, I've had those sorts of goals my entire life, and I went through school and university and getting my kinesiology professional license. So I've always had goals, and then from switching to sport and then going from the fitness competitions, switching into business goals. And that's where I think it's important that leaders have goals for themselves and goals for their business. And it's like, okay, what's next? How can I do better? And my theme of the year, my words of the year is elevating Diamond to its fullest potential. So really just recovering from the last couple of years and making it better than it ever has been. And I don't know if I'll ever get there, because I'm always trying to strive for better. It's like, how can I give back to my members? How can I make it better for my members? I think that's something that I will always be striving to do. And obviously my goal is to hit what the numbers we were before COVID, so 200 members. And then I don't know what's next. Maybe a second location. Maybe a second location, maybe getting into more of the nutrition side of it, which I love, and the online piece. I don't know where that looks, but it's one step at a time, and loving and serving my members right now and growing it to where I want it to be. We are starting a new beginner jiu-jitsu program, which is huge. Again, these are all things that I had planned pre-COVID to get the ball rolling, and now we're finally starting a beginner jiu-jitsu program for adults. So that'll be for anyone that's welcome, to give them a step into the door. So that's it's been great, and continuing to do what I love.
I think, I'm so happy you touched on the goals, because people underestimate the power of goal setting. And as you know, we have a pretty extensive exercise that I have to chase and make sure every client does, and it takes a long time, and sometimes takes people 10 weeks because our goals change and things change. And then at the end of the year, we're setting the goals for the upcoming year. And then literally we're walking through quarter by quarter, where are we at? Let's do a goal checklist review. Where are we at for these things? Especially, we talk about financial goals, which is a little bit easier to look and measure. But, I'm so happy you touched on that. And as you've seen, most of the goals, we have that saying, a little bit corny, goals we set are the goals we get, and I find like you must agree with that. Like, we've done goal setting since we've been working together, and it's like, the closest thing to magic that you can get. Like, you write it down, you check on it, it reminds you to do the thing you need to do. Like, it's so important in your business's success. Amazing. I want to thank you. Meighen. Is there any last message you want to say before we do a send off from the Legacy Martial Arts Business Podcast?
Thanks again for having me. It's been awesome. Great time. Always chatting with you is always fun. And to business owners, to female business owners, don't give up, and keep going. You do have to put the work in, but again, it's so rewarding to see the difference and the impact that you're making, and that we're all making in the martial arts world. And just keep going and adding more and making a difference every day. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Meighen. Signing off here, Legacy Martial Arts Business Podcast. Guys, if you want more information of some of the free things that we offer, you can check us out in our Facebook group, Martial Arts Gym Owners United. You can check out our link, martialartsgymownersunited.com. All right. Talk to you soon, everybody. Great podcast. Thank you so much, Meighen, and signing off.